So today's lesson is about factoring out the greatest common factor from a polynomial. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for the largest number that goes into the numbers. So if you need to write that down, that's what a greatest common factor is. A greatest common factor would be the largest number that divides into the given numbers in your problem. Okay, so in number 1, the two numbers are 3 and 9. So what I always do is check to see if the smaller number will divide into the larger number. Well, I know that 3 does go into 9, so 3 is going to be my greatest common factor. So I'm just going to try to get myself in the habit of just making a little cloud over to the side and put GCF in the cloud, and my greatest common factor for this one, I'm just going to write it in the cloud and write a 3. Now you also have to look to see if there is a variable that is in both, or in all the terms. Okay, so you're going to be looking for the same variable in all the terms. Well, there's an x in the first term, but not an x in the second term. So on number 1, we don't have to really worry about a variable because there wasn't the same variable in both terms. So we're going to write down a 3, and we're going to put a parentheses. And in that parentheses, because this has two terms, this term and this term, we're going to put 2 blanks. Then we're going to close the parentheses, and we're going to take this minus sign and put it here. Now, I really didn't give you any problems on the ones that we're going to do today that you would have to change the sign on. So whatever sign is here is going to go here. All right, so now you're going to just take the first term and you're going to divide it by 3. Okay, and so if you divide that by 3, then 3 divided by 3 is 1. And if you get a 1, you still have an x squared there, so you have to put the x squared in the blank. So it's like the 3 over 3 will cancel out, and then you write in the blank whatever's left over. All right, then you're going to take the 9 and divide it by 3. So this 3 is going to be divided into this term. This 3 is going to be divided into this term. So this is 9 divided by 3, which is just plain old 3. All right, so it looks like we're finished. All right, now you're just going to multiply and see if you're doing it correctly. All right, so first of all, you're going to look to see if you have a common factor left over on the inside, and you do not. You multiply. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. So it looks like I did my problem correctly. All right, so let's look at number 2. Now number 2, this one I don't see any numbers. So when we look for the largest number that divides into the given numbers, we're really not going to have a number. So we're going to move on to the same variable in all the terms. Well, there's a y in both terms. So in my cloud over here, I'm going to write GCF, and I'm going to write down a y. Okay, now, once you get a common factor that's a variable, then you have to take out the smallest exponent. In our case, we have a 2 and we have a 1 here. So the smallest exponent is a 1. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put y to the first. So all you do to write y to the first is you just write y. Now you're going to write a parentheses. And how many terms will we write again? We're going to have 2 terms, so we're going to write 2 blanks. Okay, we're going to bring that minus here. And now we're going to divide. So we're going to divide y squared divided by y and y divided by y. So if there's 2 y's on top and 1 on the bottom, then 2 subtract 1, because we're dividing, we're going to be left over with 1. Okay, so this will be y squared divided by y. 2 subtract 1 is 1. All right, so that's a 1 times a 1. So y to the first times y to the first. 1 plus 1 gives me 2. 2 subtract 1 gives me 1. All right, so then this y and this y are exactly the same. So what did we do in the first one? We canceled out the 3's that were the same, so we're going to cancel those out too. The only problem is if you cancel them out and don't put something in the blank, then it won't be correct. So if you cancel everything out and there's nothing left over, you have to put a 1. So the difference between number 2 and number 1 is in this problem, the 3's canceled out, but I had a leftover. I had x squared. So I could actually put x squared in the blank. But this one I did not have a leftover, so I had to fill it up with a 1. All right, so we're going to see, is there anything else common inside? No. Let's do our multiplication. Y times y will be y squared, and y times -1 is -y. So it looks like that checked out. All right, now let's look at number 3. Okay, number 3, we're going back to looking at the numbers again to see what the largest number would be that would divide into the given numbers. Okay, so for number 3, I'm going to take the small number, which is 20, and see if it goes into 40. And it does. So 20 goes into 40 how many times? 2. So I know that the greatest common factor for the numbers is 20. Now, if you don't know that 20 goes into 40, then you use your handy dandy calculator and you type in 40 divided by 20, and that'll give you a 2. And that tells you that 20 goes into 40 2 times. Okay, so my number that I'm going to put on the outside is a 20. Is there an A in both? No. Is there a B in both? No. So the only part that's going to be in the greatest common factor would be a 20. Now you're going to write your parentheses. Well, how many blanks am I going to put? Well, there's 2 terms. Going to put 2 blanks and a minus sign. So now I'm going to divide each one of these by 20. So we're going to put a 20 here, and then 40 divided by 20 is 2. We're going to put a 20 here. Well, the 20s are going to cancel out. So what's going to be the leftover in the blank? A, B. Now, is there anything common? No. Can I multiply and get what I started with? 20 times 2 is 40. 20 times negative AB is going to be negative 20 AB. Negative 20 AB. So it looks like that checked also. Okay, so look at number 4. All right, now I know you probably don't use 14 and 28 very often, but you're looking for the greatest common factor between 14 and 28. So what do? You check to see if 14 goes into 28. So if you don't know if it does or not, you do 28 divided by 14. What's the calculator say? It says 2. So that means 14 does go into 28. So in my greatest common factor cloud, I'm going to put 14. All right, then I'm going to look to see if there's an X in both. Okay, there is an X in both. So I'm going to write an X. Well, what's the smallest exponent? I have a 1 here and a 2 here, so I know it's X to the first. Is there a Y in both? Yes, there's a Y in both. What's the smallest exponent? I have a 1 here and a 2 here, so it's a 1. So my greatest common factor for this problem is 14xy. So that's what I'm going to write on the outside of the parentheses. Now, there's 2 terms again. So guess what? 2 blanks. All right, but this time it's a plus sign. So now we're going to look at this, and we're going to divide. Well, what's going to happen with 14x and y? Well, all of those would just cancel out. Okay, good. So what happens when they all cancel out? Can I just leave it blank? No. What do I have to put? I have to put a 1. All right, so now we're going to divide this by 14xy. So what is 28 divided by 14? Well, we saw a few minutes ago that it's 2. Now, if you have x squared on top and then the x on the bottom here, then we know that it's 2 subtract 1 is just 1. So that's going to be an x to the first, and this 2 subtract this 1. 2 minus 1 is 1 again, so that'll be a y to the first. Okay, Is there anything common? Nope, there's nothing common. Let's multiply. 14xy times 1 is 14xy. 14 times 2 is 28. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. So I know I'm correct. All right, one more for this 5-minute check. All right, for this one, it looks like it changed up just a little bit. We have 3 terms this time instead of just 2. So this time, the only part that's going to change is the number of blanks. Okay? All right, so keep that in mind. And we're going to get the greatest common factor. Okay, so the greatest common factor here, remember you take your small number and see if it goes into the other numbers. Does 2 go into 10? Yes. How many times? 5. Does 2 go into 4? Yes. How many times? 2. So I know that the greatest common factor would be a 2. All right, is there an x in all of the terms? Yes, there's an x here, here, and here. So I'm going to write an x. Well, what's the smallest exponent? It's a 2 because there's a 2, 8, and a 3. So I'm going to write a 2. All right, is there a y in each term? Yes, so I'm going to write a y. What's the smallest exponent? Well, it's a 2 again. All right, so there's my GCF. So I'm going to put 2x squared, y squared, and a parentheses, and we decided that we were going to have 3 blanks. So 1, 2, 3. Close your parentheses. Put the minus here and the plus here. All right, so what happens with the first term? Well, it looks to me like all of those are going to cancel out. So can I leave it empty? No, you can't leave it empty. So you're going to put a 1 there. All right, now let's look at just the middle term. All right, how many times does 2 go into 10? 5 times. I have 8 x's and 2 x's. So if you wanted to put the 2 there, that would give you 5. X squared, that'll be 8 subtract 2, which is x to the 6th. And this will be 8 subtract 2, which is y to the 6th. All right, last one. Put the 2x squared, y squared on the bottom. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. 3 subtract 2 is 1, so that's x to the 1st. 3 subtract 2, that's 1, so that's y to the 1st. Is there anything common? No. And now let's check it. So 2x squared y squared times 1 is 2x squared y squared. 2 times -5, -10. X squared times x to the 6th, that's 2 plus 6 is 8. Y squared times y to the 6th, 2 plus 6 is 8. The last one, 2 times 2 is 4. X squared times x, so that's 2 plus 1, which is 3. Y squared times y, 2 plus 1, which is 3. And that checked out also. Okay, so I think you have 2 more 5-minute checks that you're supposed to do with this type of factoring. So I want you to have those done for me tomorrow when you come to class.